Welcome to For the Love of Pets by Pet Pod Productions, a student team from the Humber College Digital Business Management program. In this podcast, we dive into all things pet, from heartwarming stories and expert advice to everything in between. Whether you're a lifelong pet lover or just curious, this podcast is your new favorite hangout for all things pet. I'm your host, Anjali, and this is Milo. And I'm your host, Farah. In our first episode, we sit down with a therapy dog expert to uncover how animals can help reduce stress and improve mental wellness. We'll explore the role of therapy dogs on college campuses and their calming influence in other care facilities. That's right, Farah. As students, we all know how stressful college life can get, but sometimes all it takes is a furry friend to make everything a little bit better. Our special guest today is Melanie Schulman, a paralegal professor at Humber College who frequently brings her therapy dog Percy to campus. Percy will be joining us today, and he has been a certified therapy dog with St. John's Ambulance Therapy Dog Program since 2015. His campus visits help students de-stress and find comfort in their own hectic routines. Welcome to the show, Melanie and Percy.
Hi, thanks for having us. I imagine you want to see Percy on screen, and the only way to effectively get him to do something is bribery. Hey, Percy, what's here? Now he's tangled himself up. Hang on, let me untangle him. He's leashed to my desk so that he can't wander away, but then it makes it from tools. Come on. There he is. Say hi to all the people out in podcast. Okay, you're done.
Let's jump right into the questions. So, Melanie, for our listeners who may not be familiar with therapy dogs or the concept of pet therapy, can you share what therapy dogs do and highlight some of the benefits that they offer to individuals?
Yeah, so I always say that the main thing we do is visit people to cheer them up, right? In all different capacities. So he comes to Humber College, and just like you were saying, students get stressed, everybody gets stressed, but students certainly get stressed. And so he's here with me most days, but officially he visits at the LRC at the North Campus on Tuesdays, and he visits with Ignite, your student federation, on Thursdays. Other than that, he goes regularly to long-term care homes. He goes to court and he sits with victims while they testify. He goes to the library and kids read him stories. He's been in parades. Literally, my dog has been in parades. Just all kinds of things that he's been invited to and taken part with. Like we visit with people with disabilities and different care homes and things like that. So yeah, he lives a very full life, my dog. And his job is just to cheer people up and make them happy.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah, I think both myself and our listeners would love to hear the story of how you met Percy and what inspired you to have Percy certified as a therapy dog.
So Percy's just my pet. So we're with an organization called St. John Ambulance, and they certified Percy as a therapy dog. Actually, they certify us as a team. He can only be a therapy dog with me. We are handler and dog. But I've had Percy since he was just a puppy. He was about 8 weeks old, and you could hold him in one hand. He was a tiny little guy. Everybody always told me he was so calm, and I was just looking for like an activity to do with my dog, something that we could do together, because I like hanging out with him. And so with him being as calm and sweet and well behaved as he was, therapy dog work seemed like a natural thing to do. So that's why we started looking into it. So he qualified as a therapy dog when he was about 1.5 years old, which is quite young. A lot of the dogs in the program are quite a bit older, and so they have to be calm and generally well behaved. So he seemed to fit the bill. And so, yeah, he qualified when he was about 1.5 years. And not that I'm bragging or anything, but the next youngest dog in the group that we qualified with was 3. So he really was quite young.
I love that. That's so cute. My dog is just so hyper. Like, he would be the total opposite. So I feel you on the young dog thing. So we've seen how stressed students can get, especially around exam periods. Can you share some of the benefits students experience when interacting with therapy dogs like Percy? How did the students typically respond to him?
I get all kinds of response. I get people who stop for just a second to pet him. I always joke he's like my day brightener. I walk around with this creature that brightens everyone's day. I'm just walking through the halls here, like just get into my car or whatever, and I hear people going, "Oh, it's Percy." And if I'm not in a hurry, I will stop and let people pet him. So he's cheering people up left and right. But then I get people who tell me, that it's deeper than that they're really going through a hard time and they're really happy to see him. He also has to come to class with me. So when he comes to class, it's unofficial. He's not working when he's in class. he's mostly just napping. I always tell my students he's the only one who can nap in class. But one time after class, not that long ago, I had a student who asked if she could speak to me after class. So she waited until everyone had left, and she immediately kind of burst into tears. And Percy went right to her, and the two of them lay on the floor in the class, and we chatted for like an hour about just all the things that were going on in her life. She just had some hard stuff going on. We just talked for a while, and I'm always willing to talk with my students anyway, but there's no question that having Percy there definitely kind of helped. I mean, it just created an atmosphere where she could kind of feel free to talk and cuddle him at the same time. Yeah, I get a lot of that. The other thing I get, sorry to add another story, but is people who are afraid of dogs. And he's the dog who kind of teaches them, hey, dogs aren't so scary. So I've had students who told me they've never pet a dog before in their lives, and they'll pet him because he's so calm. He makes people feel better. He makes people feel calmer. He makes people feel safe. So he's kind of magic that way.
Yeah, I really love hearing those stories. So also, while we were researching for our podcast, we came across studies that show how therapy animals can reduce anxiety, depression, and even physical pain. I've read that you and Percy also visit nursing homes, libraries, and treatment centers as well. During your visits, have you ever witnessed moments when Percy's presence provided more than just comfort? Can you share any stories where Percy profoundly affected someone's life?
Yeah, I have so many stories like that. It's crazy. You don't even have time for a quarter of them. One of the first therapy dog visits we ever did was at the long-term care place that we still visit at. We've been visiting at the same place for 8 years, almost 9 years now. And now we just wander around. They know us, and we know who likes him. So we just wander and we go where we're wanted. But in the early days, they used to have a staff person walk around with us to, show us around and sort of help us interact with the people because we didn't know anybody yet. And one of the first days we were there, we were walking down the hall and we could hear a woman crying loudly in her room. And I turned to the staff person. I was like, what's going on? What's wrong? And she said, well, she's just in pain all the time. It's just chronic pain and there's not much we can do for her. So we stopped at her room and we asked her if she wanted to pet Percy, and she said yes. And I remember they had to lower her bed because she had a hospital bed, and so that she could reach him, and they lowered it and she pet him. And we stayed with her for a few minutes, and then we moved on to the next person. And when we came back down the hall the other way, she was asleep, after she'd been, sobbing in her room. And I thought, the power of the dog, the difference he made. I have so many stories, but some of the stories I like best are the ones that I don't even realize happened. I mentioned the library where the kids read them stories. That's a literacy program. And the idea behind that is when kids are learning to read, their parents can be critical and their teachers can be critical, but the dog's never critical. The dog just listens. So he lies there on the ground and they read him stories. I don't even remember meeting these people, and this dog had such an impact on them, long after he's gone, long after I'm gone. There'll be all these people whose lives he impacted who will remember him and just that he made them happy.
That's so wonderful. Looking ahead, where do you see therapy animal programs heading? Do you think there will be more integration of therapy animals in education systems, workplaces, or healthcare systems in the future?
I think so. I mean, even in the time we've been doing this, so we started in 2015, and even since we've been doing it, you've seen a lot of other organizations. St. John Ambulance, the organization we belong to, was, I think, the first in Canada, but now there are quite a few organizations that have therapy dog teams. So it's obviously popular, and there's a need for it and a want for it. There are obstacles to overcome. You get allergies and, workplaces where they don't want pets and animals in there. So as long as places are willing to overcome that sort of thing and deal with some of the issues, there will be some people who don't want pets there. I do think that the number of people who want it is bigger, and it's just a matter of integrating it and figuring out how. But yeah, absolutely. I think it'll just get bigger and bigger. Maybe other animals, maybe bunnies, cats. I don't know.
I definitely hope we can start seeing more therapy animals in the future. What brings me to my next question. Can you tell us about any upcoming events involving therapy dogs at Humber College that students should look out for?
Yeah, so we're always coming to various different events. He comes to open house, which will be sometime in November. But he's here weekly. So if you're at the North Campus, we're mostly at the North. We make the occasional appearance at the lake, but I work at the North, so he comes with me. Every Tuesday from 12 to 1, he's with Ignite, or with the LRC on the third floor near the elevators. So come by and see him. And every Thursday, times and locations vary a little bit with Ignite, but usually around noon or 1, we're with Ignite for about an hour. And we just kind of follow them around, whatever events they have going on. Percy joins in. They had a drag show a few weeks ago, and I wondered if the loud music and all the cheering was going to be too much for him, but he just napped on the floor while people pet him. So yeah, no.
He's a natural. Lastly, for our listeners who might be considering getting their dog certified as a therapy animal, what qualities do you think make a pet suited for this kind of work? Any advice on how to start the journey?
Yes, people often confuse therapy dogs with service dog. A service dog or an emotional support dog would be like if I needed him for support, which unofficially I do, but officially I don't. Therapy dogs are there for others. So it's not like he has special skills the way a service dog does. I always just say he's certified nice. So if your dog is calm, if your dog is sweet, they have to basically listen to you, but they don't need a lot of skills. They just need to be basically non-hyper, fairly calm dogs with basic obedience, and they can never show any sign of aggression. That is like their number one rule. Yeah, the way to get into it, just if you're interested in our organization, just Google St. John Ambulance. They hold information sessions regularly, and they have evaluations for the dogs a few times a year. They don't train the dogs, they just evaluate them. Either you meet their standards or you don't. That's basically how it works.
I do have one more question. What kind of breeds are mostly therapy dogs?
We have every breed in the program. So the rule is no banned breeds. And in Ontario, that's pit bulls. So technically a pit bull or a pit bull mix would not be allowed. But other than that, every breed from tiny little chihuahuas to there was a big Leonberger. I don't know if you know what those are, but they're just giant fluffy dogs. We had everything. But I will say Percy's a golden retriever, and they are very overrepresented in the program. If you know anything about golden retrievers, they tend to be very sweet, very docile dogs, and they're kind of perfect for therapy dog work. So any dog can do it. The rule is simply they have to be at least a year old before they can take the evaluation, and they have to obviously pass the evaluation. Any breed other than banned breeds are welcome.
Melanie, thank you so much for sharing your insights and giving us a deeper understanding of the work you do and what Percy does. It's clear that therapy animals like Percy make a huge difference in people's lives, especially for students dealing with stress.
Thanks for having us. We had fun.
Thank you again, Melanie, and a big thank you to Percy as well. If our listeners want to keep up with Percy's adventures, be sure to follow him on Instagram at Percy Perceptions and also visit him at Humber College North Campus. Thank you to all our listeners for tuning in For the Love of Pets, proudly produced by Pet Pod Productions as part of the Digital Business Management Program. Join us next time for more heartwarming pet stories and expert advice. Until then, give your pets some extra love for us. Bye, Melanie. Bye, Percy.